The land of Egil is a province in modern-day Turkey that is known to be an ample resource for ancient human civilization. Being situated in the Upper Mesopotamia region, the area is renowned for its rather arid climate and fertile plains. Being bordered by the Tigris and Euphrates River, its topography made it possible for early humans to begin farming and agriculture, eventually leading to the construction of the earliest cities. Truly, the artifacts and evidence of human habitation in Egil dates back thousands of years and ranges from mighty empires such as the Assyrians, Persians, Romans, Byzantines, and the Kurds. More uniquely, however, Egil seems to also have been host to some of the oldest fortresses known to mankind. While we consider the construction of castles to have been a practice adopted by early Europeans during the medieval period, it seems that similar structures may have existed for much longer. Today, let's discuss the rich history of Egil, Turkey, and discover many of the ancient secrets it holds for archaeologists and historians alike. We will look at many of the amazing structures in the region that remain standing to this day and the timeline of events that took place in Egil from the ancient Mesopotamian period all the way until the modern era. I believe that the castles of Egil, the remnants of fortresses that predate even the biblical flood, and how its influence has rippled into the surrounding civilization and human history as a whole. Perhaps one of the most mind-blowing locations within Egil is the discovery of primitive settlements within the rock, which suggests that settlers in the region have been fortifying their empires amongst the various hills since antiquity. First discovered in 1946, the province surrounding the Tigris River has been host to numerous caves nestled inside of rock faces and into sheer cliffs. Many have come to dub these excavated sites as the castles of Egil, since they hint at being used for defensive purposes. These sites date all the way back to the Middle Paleolithic Age, ranging from around 20,000 Salons, 15,000 BCE. This would make them some of the oldest surviving man-made structures in the world, predating the Great Flood as detailed in the Bible and around the world in almost every major ancient civilization. One of these castles, now called the Egil Assyrian Castle, was constructed by some of the earliest founders of the ancient Assyrian civilization, a culture that we will discover later has a long-lasting and important relationship within this region. The castle is situated very unique within a rock on the outcropping of a cliff, making it a very difficult site to reach indeed. The entrance of the structure is at the end of a narrow cliff road, making entry difficult for large groups of people and rather time-consuming. This was likely by design, however, as the inhabitants inside would have an advantage when it came to fending off invaders, as they tried to enter the complex in a single-file line, one by one. Despite some of the fortresses having dilapidated and collapsed over time, many of its walls still stand to this day. Archaeologists that have excavated this site predict that the use case for the Egil Assyrian cave was likely to house soldiers who were on standby and to store supplies and armaments. Truly, the Egil Assyrian cave and its surrounding sister sites give us keen insight on how the relationship with warfare in the area has stemmed back even thousands of years. As time progressed and civilizations would rise and fall, this would not be the last time someone would find it advantageous to build a castle atop the many cliffs and hills that decorate the Egil landscape. One of the most significant sites to have ever been constructed within the Egil territory is the ancient city of Amida. This site was founded by the Assyrian Empire around 3000 BCE and was strategically built along the banks of the Tigris River. This meant that the city was positioned to be along a vital trading network that connected Mesopotamia to Anatolia, Syria, and even Persia. This position also meant that Amida had natural defenses and easy access to a consistent water supply. The city was so significant to the Assyrians, in fact, that it served as the administrative capital for their entire empire. As a result, the city was heavily coveted by themselves and competing armies, meaning that Amida would have to be subject to ample fortification in order to protect itself and its citizens. Thus, the city is quite well known in the region for its impressive defensive structures and fortifications. The city itself would eventually be surrounded by a massive complex of towering walls and ramparts. These designs were impressive in of themselves because they utilized revolutionary construction techniques that involved stone and mud brick. The fortifications were designed to withstand potential sieges and attacks from the many opposing empires that surrounded them, and were a prominent display of the military prowess that the Assyrians were capable of. The Assyrian culture would prosper within Amida for several millennia until they would eventually fall prey to Persian attacks in 359 CE during the height of the Roman-Persian Wars. This siege would be spearheaded by the then Emperor of the Persian Empire, Sasanian King Shapur II, as he planned to use it in order to expand the Persian territory in the area. To accomplish this daunting task, he would utilize various odd tactics to nullify the city's strong fortifications. Tools such as siege towers, battering rams, and catapults would be utilized by Persian soldiers to create breaches in the stone walls. There was a Roman garrison stationed in Amida that was led by General Lucilianus, whom of which orchestrated the use of boiling oil and projectiles to lead the defensive. However, these would prove futile. Further reinforcements would be sent by the Roman Empire in an attempt to prolong the siege's defense. However, Persian patrols were numerous around Egil, making it nigh impossible for support to successfully make their way to the city. After several months of bombardment, the city's army would grow weary and surrender in defeat so that they may save the city's residents from further starvation. Still, the city of Amida and its impressive fortifications meant that the Persians had to innovate wartime technologies to trump the impressive structure surrounding the city. That alone means that the city has an important place in history, and the various remnants of the city still tell modern archaeologists its story to this day. Several centuries later, following the rise and fall of both the Persian and the Roman empires, the medieval period would see Egil territory being occupied by the Kurdish Empire when they constructed the city of Bitlis. Constructed around the 12th century AD, the city was chosen to be constructed along the eastern shore of Lake Van, which is significant for being the single biggest lake in Turkey. On the opposite side, the city was surrounded by the Bitlis mountain range to its north and the Nemrut volcano to its west, seeming to follow the pattern of utilizing Egil's unique landscape to their advantage. During the period of Kurdish prosperity, they would use the city as an important culture center. The Marwanids, an important Kurdish dynasty that ruled over Bitlis for much of its early history, would play a significant role in the dissemination of Kurdish art, literature, and patronage in the region. In present-day Bitlis, these customs continue to be celebrated as a part of the city's ancient cultural heritage. Bitlis is also host to some pretty impressive archaeological feats as well, being home to a wide array of structures and monuments that reflect the expansive history of the city and its rich cultural influences. One of the more famous sites being the Bitlis Castle. Also known as the Bitlis Citadel or the Bitlis Fortress, the impressive landmark is situated atop a rocky outcrop that overlooks the surrounding city. While being intended as a strategic point of battle, it also happens to provide a beautiful panoramic view of the city and the surrounding hills and mountains. The construction of Bitlis Castle began around the medieval period of the 13th centuries, being basically as old as the city it's named after. Within its walls, multiple layers of fortifications are featured, including thick stone walls, towers, and several bastions. The stone walls are faceted with various unique defensive features, such as battlements, arrow slits, and machicolations, which allowed the defensive armor to repel attackers by utilizing an array of projectiles as well as pouring boiling oil. Also present within the interior of the castle is a rather deep network of chambers, courtyards, passages, and cisterns that made living spaces with the fortress unusually comfortable. Architects of the castle designed it with the intention for it to maximize defensive capabilities while still being able to provide essential amenities to occupants during the time of a potential siege. While no stories of the castle survive during this day, it would be safe to assume that Bitlis Castle was an important strategic point during the many skirmishes that occurred within the city's history. The city would later undergo numerous changes as its ruling party exchanged hands throughout the years. It would be captured by the Byzantine Empire for some time, having its name changed to Balalayzon, and once again by the Arabs, where it was renamed to Arzan. However, as the city still exists today, it would seem that the inhabitants of the city have preferred for it to retain its original moniker of Bitlis. Even more so, the city seems to retain its rich cultural significance and diversity, with the modern population of the city being a mix of Kurdish Muslims, Armenians, and Christians alike. Despite the castle having been subject to degradation over the numerous centuries since its first construction, attempts have been made by modern archaeologists to preserve its remnants. Restoration works have been ongoing in regular intervals since 2004, as it is now considered as a historically important site for the Egil region as well as the country of Turkey as a whole. Despite the city of Amida and Bitlis Castle being widely recognized as historically significant fortresses that have accompanied the extensive records of conquest within the region, there are some structures that do not preserve the same such kindness. Egil seems to be dotted with small defensive structures throughout its expanse, with several being shrouded in mystery, with its architects and history having been seemingly lost to the sands of time and the chaos of warfare. One such example of these structures is the enigmatic Kirikan Castle. The monument, which is located near the town of Silvan, sits about 60 kilometers outside of Egil, located in southeastern Turkey. The exact date of inception for the castle remains unknown, as modern archaeologists and historians have struggled to unsuccessfully uncover which civilization was responsible for its initial construction. Whoever it was that was responsible for building it, they must have had a strategic spot in mind for it as well, as it is situated at the top of a hill overlooking the surrounding plains. Due to this, many believe that it may have been fortified during the Hellenistic period or potentially even earlier. What is known as fact, however, is that it would fall into the possession of the Islamic rule during the Arab conquest in the 7th century AD. For the Arab armies in the area, it proved useful as a strategic site to oversee the active trade routes that stretch across the plains. For them, it proved vital for them to maintain control over the area for as long as they did. Later, during the medieval period, Kirikan Castle would be overtaken by the Bitlis Principality, where it is likely it was given refortifications once again. However, in the present day, the site has fallen into a state of disrepair. It seems that it has been overshadowed by its much mightier predecessors and has largely been forgotten by the peoples of the region. In conclusion, the various sites that encompass the Egil area prove that this river valley is one of the most historically significant stretches of land throughout the entirety of our planet. The many castles and fortresses that can have been built and destroyed in its numerous ancient cities give modern historians an important glimpse of how the many battles have influenced how ancient peoples thought, their anxieties of sieges, and how they reacted as a result. While modern archaeology still highly covets Egil and regularly discovers more and more rich history within the area, it serves as a driving force for our modern academia to strive to uncover the true timeline between each of these mighty castles, which would prove to connect all of them together.